Hello, I'm just going to go through my Beatles collection for you people on YouTube. There's nothing amazingly wow in here, but it's pretty good stuff nonetheless. This is my vinyl stuff. I've got other stuff on CD and cassette and what have you, although the cassette stuff doesn't really work. Okay, so here is Let It Be. It's a pretty bog standard Apple version with the green apple on it. The first ones had a red apple on them. Came in a box set with a leaflet and stuff. This is not that. This was bought in the 80s. This is a French Abbey Road. I know it's French because there are French details on the record itself. Made in France by Pathé Marconi EMI on there. Another British Abbey Road, although this one's a really tatty one. I got it from an old market that I don't think is there anymore in Bexhill. Someone's eaten the corner of it, obviously. Haven't played this for years, this one. Okay, my French Abbey Road has a funny fade up at the beginning of Come Together, like the first notes being missed off or something. Which is a shame. This is an 80s white album, not a limited at all. It should go that way round. Okay, they came with photographs and a poster. That's not it. I have the photos, I don't have the poster. So that's a shame about that one, but I originally had the poster. I think I put it on my bedroom wall at some point when I was a teenager. This is Yellow Submarine. Okay, again looking pretty much 80s. It's got the first Beatles albums, the sleeves were called flip back sleeves, and that meant that the tab that glued them was actually on the outside. This is not a flip back sleeve. I'll show you one when I get one. This is a Magical Mystery Tour. This again is, I think this is a British version of it. Yeah, it's a Parlophone one. Again, this wasn't released until 1976 in this country as an album. It was an EP, a double EP. But the Americans wanted to release it as an album, and they put some of the, at the time, later singles on there, Hello, Goodbye and I'm the Walrus. I'm the Walrus was part of the original EP, so they put Hello, Goodbye on the B-side of the LP, plus Strawberry Fields and Penny Lane, All You Need Is Love and Baby You're a Rich Man. That didn't arrive as an album, as I say, until 1976. Okay, this is looks pretty much to me like an original oldies but goldies. It has the flip back sleeve. This was originally released in 1976. I haven't really played this. I got this again from a pretty tatty pile of records in an antique shop. I played it once, I think. It's not in too bad a condition. I suppose I should clean it and give it a go. Here is a mono Sgt. Pepper. The mono mix, some people have said, have been like the only true mix of this. The stereo mix was done in a few days, whereas the mono mix took months and months to get right. There are some differences, for example, slight difference in Sgt. Pepper. There's a guitar lick towards the end of it that leads into With a Little Help from My Friends, which is not very audible on the stereo version. Plus, things like the reprise of Sgt. Pepper is longer. She's Leaving Home is a little bit faster on this, and what else? The other major difference is in Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, which sounds more sort of psychedelic and swirly-whirly than the stereo version. Very good copy that is. It's still got the cutouts of the badges and things, plus it's got the little psychedelic pink sleeve in there. This is a mono Revolver. It's not in particularly good condition, and the mono Revolver mix is the only mono mix that I really don't like of the Beatles that I've heard so far. I haven't heard them all, but this one, things like Here, There and Everywhere, the bass seems to be very uneven on it. Yellow Submarine seems to be much more compressed than the stereo version as well, and yeah, I don't really like it. So here's the stereo. This is an 80s version of that. This is a stereo rubber sole. This has got quite a good stereo mix to it. In fact, it's virtually indistinguishable from the mono mix which I've got here. This is the mono one, and here's another flip back sleeve you can see with the bit here. This is the second pressing of it. The first pressing is very rare. It was withdrawn after about a day. They realised that the that side B had a strange mix to it, or strange mastering, which meant that it was just too trebly and hardly any bass on it. So they repressed it. So that's the second pressing. This is a mono help. Okay, the only real differences between the mono and stereo mixes of help. Here's a stereo help, by the way. Another 80s looking version here. But the mono, the only real differences are in the song Help itself, which has a different vocal on it, and in the mono version you can hear all the edits far more clearly in it, and Yesterday also has a bit more reverb and stuff on it on the mono version. This one's fairly interesting, I suppose. This is a mono for sale. It's not an original mono, it's an 80s one. In the corner up here, it's telling you can get it on cassette or CD as well, because this was released in the 1980s. It's an album version of the digital, or the first digital masters that George Martin made. It's still packaged pretty much like the original, but it's not an original. This is a stereo, Hard Day's Night. On this album, it was Paul who had the sore throat. You can hear his voice cracking in lots of places, especially on the stereo version, because again, they didn't take as much care with the stereo version as they did with the mono. And certainly on When I Get Home, for instance, there's a lot of whoa whoa ha's in it, and I think pretty much near the beginning you can hear Paul go whoa whoa ha. His throat cracks. Yeah, so he had the sore throat on that album. This is the sorry, this is the mono version. It's not a flip back sleeve, it's not an original mono. Again, in the 80s they re-released the mono albums as well, and this is one of those. I don't know where any of the others are like that. A mono with the Beatles. I don't have a stereo one of that. This is an original mono. Now it's getting slightly out of order now. This is George Harrison's Brainwashed album. Superb album. You've seen some of this. I put some on at Christmas on YouTube. This is Dark Horse. Not George Harrison's best album. It's not his worst album either, though. I've got some of his others on CD. This is Living in the Material World. This was the follow-up to All Things Must Pass, which is not in this pile here, but I have got a box set of that. But yes, this is, I don't think this is his best album at all. I don't really like it. I like Give Me Love, Give Me Love, Give Me Peace on Earth, but I think some of it is just too preachy, and I think, you know, it's a bit ugh. Okay, this is Wonderwall Music, again by George Harrison. bizarre LP. I've only played it once, I think. It's very bizarre. Made in 1967 before they split up. Bit electronic-y. Alright. Here is Paul McCartney's possibly worst album that he's ever made, McCartney 2. At one stage I used to like this, but that was in the 80s, and I had to play it a few times before I realised that I liked it. But I don't really like it now. It's a bit strange. Wings at the Speed of Sound. This is a pretty good album. I think, you know, most major artists, I think they have like a trilogy of pretty good albums, and then they either go on the wane or, you know, or pick themselves up later. McCartney picked himself up a bit in the 80s, but this is the third of the original trilogy of albums that I'm referring to. Wings at the Speed of Sound, followed by Venus and Mars, which was the album before. Okay, this is an American pressing. It's a bit tinny, but I like this album. And then Band on the Run, and that makes up the trilogy. Okay, although as you can see my collection's going backwards, so that's gone 76, 75, 74. This is a brilliant album. If you get no other Paul McCartney album, get this one. It's really, really good. This is Wings at the Speed of Sound. It's not Wings at the Speed of Sound, beg your pardon, I muddle up the titles of these. This is Wings Over America. It's a triple album of Paul McCartney live. They made a TV documentary of this as well in the 70s, which I haven't seen for ages, and if anybody knows if it's on YouTube or anything, it'd be nice to see it. This is a posthumous album by John Lennon, Milk and Honey. In quite good condition. This is the ubiquitous John Lennon collection. This is in quite bad condition. This was given to me by someone who stored it not very well. I used to have a cassette copy of that in the 80s, and so that just brings back nice memories of having that. This is Double Fantasy. This was the album that was released just before he was shot. John and Yoko. This is actually pretty good, and the Yoko Ono stuff on here is brilliant as well. So yeah, again, if you hear nothing else of Yoko Ono, listen to that because it's pretty darn good. Okay, she's a bit of an acquired taste. This is another copy of it because neither of them are in perfect condition, but I can just about get a good album if I mix and match. Mind Games. This is a pretty good album as well. It was panned when he first released it, but I like it. Okay, I've also got Walls and Bridges, but that's on CD, and I love the Walls and Bridges album. That's my favourite Lennon album, I think. This is Sometime in New York City, which got a little bit panned again when it was first released. Very political, and he does end up looking a bit of an idiot on here, really, because some of the things that that he was campaigning for, I think he has been subsequently proved to be slightly wrong. I think the Hanratty case in particular. I think his allegiance to them was slightly cast into debate. And this is Imagine, okay? I've got a remix of this on CD. Yoko Ono authorised them to be remixed and remastered slightly, but this is the original and it's nice. Although this copy could do with, I think it's a little bit tattered. Right, now Hiding From Me, as it were. Please Please Me, this is a stereo version. It's an 80s pressing of it. It's the one that everybody complains about the stereo positions on. Certainly the mono album is much more coherent. The thing that really annoys me on this is that sometimes you can hear their microphones or their mixing desk overloading because they've compressed the vocals so much to bring them up front. Yeah, I Saw Her Standing There is the one where it really gets to me, I think, a little bit, but I do like that album, it's good. And this is a triple album, Beatles Anthology 2. Not really interested in having the other ones, but this one's pretty good. Goes from 1965 to 1968. All sorts of things you can hear on here that are pretty good. Taxman is good. There's one of John Lennon sitting at a tape recorder trying to work out She Said, which is also very good. This is live at the Hollywood Bowl. They were famed really for not cutting it live once they became mega famous because of the racket of the audience trying to compete with their very small amplification systems. But this was transferred to 24 track in the 70s and released in 1977, and it really captures the atmosphere really well, and they actually sound quite good on it. So yeah, like that one. This is an American pressing of 1967 to 70. I have actually put a video of I'm the Walrus being played from here on YouTube, and talked about that track in quite a lot of detail on there. But also on here, it's a bit bizarre that it seems to have a mono edition of Hello Goodbye. Quite why that is, I don't know. Because there certainly was a good stereo mix of it made, so I don't know why that happened. The English edition, which I've got on CD, is not mono, it's stereo. This is... oh, hang on. Before I leave this album, I should also say that the version of Strawberry Fields Forever is the first version, the first stereo mix that was made. There were two stereo mixes that was made. One was made in 1971 for the German edition of Magical Mystery Tour. Bizarre, really. I think that the first one is actually the best one. Also, this one has the fake stereo version of Penny Lane. And if you listen, there are two fake stereo versions of Penny Lane on the Magical Mystery Tour LP that I showed you earlier on, and this one, and they've both got slightly different bass content. And this is a regular British 62 to 66. So there we have it. That is my Beatles and Beatles related thing, apart from one thing that I haven't shown you because I'm not quite sure where I can lay my hands on it at the moment, but I have got a box set of the Concert for Bangladesh by George Harrison and All Things Must Pass.